Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Tim Rose, the editor of AM, and I'd like to thank you for tuning into our first AM webinar of 2024. This one is on the theme of automated business processes with our sponsor FlowForma. And to share their insights on this topic, let's welcome our experts, Dermot Sweeney, process automation expert at FlowForma, and Danny Chaplin, managing director of Super. Let's crack on because our 45 minutes or so will probably fly by. Dermot, thank you for joining us today. I must admit, our initial conversations with you, I was quite in the dark as to kind of process automation and the kind of role in automotive. So I wondered if, for a starter, can you explain to our viewers what is meant by process automation and what are the kind of key principles behind it?
Yeah, thanks, Tim, and great to be here as well with Danny from Super. So digital process automation generally as a topic could be described as the practice of using digital technology to automate processes and optimize workflows. But from the FlowForma perspective, think about it from what we do. We're a digital process automation tool. We digitize and automate manual sets of tasks. They can be manual paper-based or manual digital tasks. And we do this very simply using a no-code tool which uses business logic, so there's no development at all. And uniquely, the solution sits on SharePoint online. So again, you hold all of your data from a GDPR perspective. So I'd say that's a fairly decent description of digital process automation and how we do that. Forrester research, which a lot of people would use for trying to research technology when they're going to buy it, they would say they've been examining digital process automation trends. There are a number of significant drivers for 2024 that are of significant interest to the C-suite and departmental leaders. And they're saying, look, improved customer experience is really important. That's a significant driver for implementing digital process automation. That's extremely important within the automotive sector, where the dealership is the unique selling point now. We're above and beyond in terms of service, and that's a really unique differentiator. Worker productivity, this is impacting all sectors, but particularly in automotive. Just anecdotally, last week, I was talking to a dealer principal who was talking about service engineers leaving and how difficult it was to replace them. So it's about empowering them to work smarter, get greater productivity from them, but also giving them the tools to do their job in the best way possible. And then cost reduction as well, finding savings with productivity. We think 2024 is going to be a really exciting year for our business. And then also, another, just as people are listening and thinking about their roles, we're of the opinion nowadays that optimization isn't just for one person, it's for everybody in the company. We're all striving to improve our businesses. Danny, have you any thoughts on that yourself?
Yeah, you can pretty much achieve any automation process, automating mundane, repetitive tasks, eradicating errors and poor decisions, as well as integrating with existing systems to provide a single pane of glass, streamlining the whole process, really.
Good stuff.
Okay, thank you. I think we're going to ask our first poll question now. So members of the audience, if you can place your vote. So we want to know, what are your top drivers for process automation in 2024? We have, so by far the biggest response to that was all of the above. Oh, okay. But the biggest single response was improved employee productivity, followed by an improved customer experience. So I guess wins both sides there, Dermot. Really wins for the business plus wins for the customer.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about it a little bit later on, where we see that employee retention is extremely important to leadership within businesses. They've invested so much time in training up their teams, and they want to retain those individuals because they're also the talent of the future, and we really help with that.
Okay, hugely valuable, absolutely. So, what other industry sectors have been using process automation quite extensively?
Yeah. So it is gathering pace in multiple other sectors, and we work with household names that you would recognize, like the NHS. They use FlowForma. Now, Forrester research shows that 70% of businesses are implementing DPA right now, or at least in the next 12 months. So it's very much front of mind for leadership. We have over 300,000 users worldwide, so we have a worldwide footprint. But the sectors: hospitals, universities, construction companies, manufacturing, oil and gas, logistics, finance services. You think about those companies; they're all they all are legal entities. They have strong governance, they have high expectations, and they need a great quality service, and we offer that. In theory, any process can be digitized and automated if it's challenging, if it's painful, if it's paper-based. But we are paying careful attention to the automotive sector. We think there's a real need for our solution here, and we're honing our services and offerings directly for the automotive sector.
Okay. And within automotive, the people that you would speak to, is there a particular role within dealer groups who'd want to progress this, and who might that be, and where do people start?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because I think people do think about where do they start. From the initiating point, it could be that the leadership team, the managing director or the C-suite within the business, right at the top, they're thinking about it maybe more from a strategic standpoint. They're thinking, like, how do we retain our staff for the next 36 months? How do we increase our productivity? How do we improve our survey scores and create this incredible customer service experience that ensures that we have a lifetime customer? And they're thinking about digital process automation to do that. And they're looking at the competition and saying that we want to remain competitive. So it could be at that level, but then that's often, and not often, always supported by people that are leading the department. So it could be, head of finance who's focusing on operational costs and how to increase business performance and drive out unnecessary costs within the business. It could be that a large dealership will have an IT department, and that will be working with the head of IT, who understands sort of their technology challenges, and they want to remove things like additional spend on desperate applications or something like this. It could be the head of HR. They're figuring out that they've got a lot of onboarding problems. It's quite a difficult and challenging issue. Or operations is very strong as well, because the operations manager typically has a lot of visibility and oversight on all of the parts of the business. And even then, from tightening up servicing, it could be head of servicing. So I would say that finance, IT, HR, operations, servicing, those are really strong areas that we would start with within a business. And we get a foothold there, and then we would expand outwards.
Okay, so on that, then, can you give us some examples of the kind of processes that dealers might want to improve through automation? What could the benefits, the outcomes be?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is also one of the reasons we're seeing this, but it's also one of the reasons I brought the Danny's here. Danny's coming here with 20 years of experience and seeing these problems firsthand, and now assisting dealerships directly with digital process automation. But Danny, do you want to kick that off as well?
Yeah. So daily checks for things like health and safety for manufactured tools, check sheets for checking the ramps are safe to use. Wheel alignment has it at its annual calibration. Some manufacturers require that they are running the latest update, so often those can be missed by the dealerships. Quite important to make sure that obviously they're aligned correctly. Things like building management and maintenance systems you can implement and put as a DPA, for building damage on site, smashed windows, anything like that. Things like alarm and fire tests as well. I don't know if you've got a manual logbook in the business or a solution for that, but you can automate alarm and fire tests. Examples such as like CCTV as well. Are all the cameras working? Not covered in spider webs, tree branches, or even flags on the sales forecourt, which is a pretty common one, triggering false alerts for the monitoring centres that potentially can then snooze it. Obviously, then affecting your insurance coverage. So that's pretty key as well. They're just some examples that could be automated to ensure the compliance and protect against litigation, really. Another example is pre-service recall checks, which is a big one we're kind of seeing at the moment. The adoption from Automotive, which is, can be quite time consuming, but they also present an opportunity for the dealership to be proactive and provide superior customer service that involves not only the vehicles for sale, but those due for a service. By using digital process automation to check the manufacturer systems for service recalls, enhancements and software updates. Dealerships to ensure that no potential issues are overlooked. This proactive approach not only improves the customer experience by addressing potential issues before they become a problem, but opens up additional revenue streams for the dealership. In essence, pre-service recall checks are not more than just a necessary task. They're an opportunity for growth and improved customer satisfaction. And some more around services, things like WIP archiving, if there's not already a solution in place there, which obviously, take up a lot of space in the dealers and very hard to find and audit those paper records as well. And the same for digitalising job cards.
Yeah, I would say then, Tim, that in the sales area, we're seeing, there's even dealerships that are typically a physical site. They've also got an online element as well, and that sort of hybrid model, and online car entry and removal onto the sales aspect of the website is another process. Checking to add and remove stock, ensuring that it lines up with the DMS. Stock transfer for some of our larger dealership partners, they may have multiple sites, and they may be transferring stock around. It's knowing where that stock is at any one time, and also incurring, also what those costs of transferring the stock are, and so on. So that would be things like authorized cost as well. Now, even sometimes, well, for a larger dealership, there could be an incentive on selling a particular model of car, so it's recording those car sales so that you have an audited digital trail that those sales have taken place, and that it's flagged somewhere so that you can reclaim back that bonus, which is all important. So that's just some aspects of around the sales. And then in HR, which is also a great starting point within many of the dealerships, because often the systems themselves are somewhat standalone. We see things like onboarding and offboarding employees, resource authorization. You need a new service engineer. How do you go about organizing that? Things like job, employee eligibility, even simple things like, does a potential candidate have a UK passport or eligible to work in the UK? And if you receive 100 CVs, you may want to send that process check out so that now you can sift through 50. I'm just saying, for example. So very, very important. And also aspects like training and driver license checks and so on. Now, in terms of finance, it could be invoice prep as well. Are you including all of the key areas that should be charged for on that bill and doing that double check? So there are lots of areas here. You can see that as those add up, there's lots of areas here where you can add time, but also it's that diligence part as well, where you're including the charge for that equipment or that service that you made, that it's not going uncharged, that you're capturing the value that you've created, and that your business is able to move at pace. And also with these processes standardized across the dealerships, it creates a more uniformed approach to your operations and your processes, meaning that you're more efficient, and also staff can move around more readily and they're familiar with working practices, right across the board, which has a knock-on impact and benefit for the company.
Yeah, that just occurred to me. With a large-scale group, you always see employees and management moving between different branches within it, and actually they will then land in a new role knowing full well what to use, what to expect, and hit the ground running.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's a reason, that the large companies do that. It is more efficient. You don't need to learn everything again. You are hitting the ground running. You're more productive, and then also the problems are more solvable at scale. If we're all using the same systems, we're doing things the same way. If I've got a dealership in London and I figure out I've solved a problem here, that could apply to the dealerships right across the rest of the country. So it means that you can scale up your efficiencies as well.
Fantastic, excellent. I think we're going to ask another poll question here, everyone. So if we can just put that live, and I'll give you a few seconds to do your answer. So we want to know, where are most of your process challenges currently? Top answer, all of the above again. But the top single answer is improved employee productivity. Is key driver, and closest to that was improved customer experience. Oh no, hang on, I'm reading the wrong bit. Sorry, what am I on about? In fact, the top answer was in sales, and servicing after sales as well. So a third for servicing, and just over a quarter for sales. So interesting. Plenty of scope within the business to make use of that then. So from what you've been saying, Dermot and Danny, it kind of strikes me that some of the benefits to this, also the transparency around it, and compliance with all the regulatory constraints on modern franchise dealers nowadays is such a thing, and actually processes like this are able to support them in that, I guess.
Yeah, something that Danny and I have spoken about, at length. And Danny, I think I'm just going to bring, just pose the sort of question to you. I think you informed me about it more than anyone, was around the post-sales warranty process, and the need for that to be rigidly applied, that each one of the steps are done in a certain way. Do you want to talk a little bit more about, why that's critical to the business and the impact that if it's not carried out in the way that the manufacturer requires?
Yeah, so depending on the manufacturer, there's on-site warranty audits that they can get pulled the revenue on if it's incorrect. There is a small margin for error across a lot of the brands, so obviously that's quite slim. And warranty can be really expensive process, but one of the big things is the customer experience on that as well. Is, for example, if somebody's booking their car in for a service, and once it's at the dealership, it then finds that there is a warranty recall check and it's been booked in for half a day, but it actually requires some parts that are on back order, and it requires a day to repair. Ultimately, the customer could be leaving the dealership, going back home, coming back again a week later, let's say, to get the car repaired. Now, once they get their NPS customer satisfaction survey, they might downgrade the business, which we'll touch upon a bit more later as well, how we can benefit with that. So it's providing a more unique CX experience for the end users, and giving that efficiency to the dealership as well. So removing the error margin, provide a better customer experience, capturing that pre-service and warranty, but ultimately for the dealer, being able to capture that missed revenue potential as well. And obviously, revenue is critical. So if you get the customer experience, additional revenue, and the customer's happy, and the service advisor's freed up to concentrate on, doing the soft touches with the client, then that's all a win-win.
Yeah, and I'll just follow on with that. Just one that Catherine and I were speaking about earlier. The loan audit trail, digital audit trails attached to loans that have been provided to prospect buyers. That's something which, is from a governance standpoint within the industry, is a requirement. We think that we can really assist there by providing oversight and a digital auditable trail of data to protect dealerships will be essential. So we think that that's also an important area that we can add value in. We do have, uniquely what we find within the industry sector is that there can be a lot of individual applications that it's difficult to collect the data and pull it through and have visibility on the processes within the business. So you might not know about a problem until it's too late, after it's been submitted, after the application's been completed or whatever it is. So what we're doing is, what digital process automation can achieve is it can empower the business to collect real-time information on what's going on with those important key processes within the business. And that means then that you can identify problems and bottlenecks early. You can solve problems early. And, that's essential for strong decision making. What we also do is what we're also doing if you think about how we provide that transparency of data, we've also got a new analytics tool will replace Power BI. So we have a new analytics tool that's built into our solution. And again, what's really important for dealerships that sometimes struggle with investment in technology resources generally is that it's no code. So again, it's completely a tool for citizen developers within these organizations.
Okay. Thank you. Now, I'm interested in some of the automotive clients that you've been working with. I know from our previous conversation you've been working with a few major franchise dealer groups already: Jackson's, Channel Islands, and Peter Varley. Can you talk to us about how that came about and the kind of the learnings, the insights that you're able to share on that?
Yeah, definitely. So for one of those examples would be to remove legacy systems with a solution that's customizable and scalable. Wanting to automate time-consuming mundane tasks, eliminating risk of employees having a lot of intellectual property. So, some of these self-developed, maybe on an Access database or an Excel spreadsheet that nobody knows how to look after. Standardizing processes, looking for a no-code tool that Dermot just mentioned then, to eliminate that reliance on one person and that risk that presents. Approval for invoices, providing efficiencies. Dermot mentioned earlier as well, that single pane of glass to prep for a board meeting, because quite often there's a lot of different systems that, dealer principals, managers within departments have to pull together, and it takes multiple resources to be able to do that. So being able to get a single pane of glass, a quick snapshot in real time to make that board meeting easy. And also, seeing a lot of it at the moment in automotive is there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions taking place. So it just helps the head office and then people part of the M&A team, to reduce costs, to scale, provide consistency, which we mentioned about people moving between different dealerships or even different departments or promotions, to identify obstacles, revenue interruption, to address quickly. And identify those growth opportunities with the real-time data that you can obtain with FlowForma.
Yeah, I think from both the organization's perspectives, they did have specific processes, and that's fine. And one of our major partners has actually digitized and automated 500 processes. Think about that. Think about the impact of that on the business. And they're not even that, they're just getting started, right? So they're really trying to drive incredible levels of efficiency throughout the business. What is the impact of that? What data are they able to glean and collect in real time to analyze their business? What's working? Where are the bottlenecks? Where are the problems? Where should we invest more? Because we can see that it's going very, very well. It just gives them so much more control over their business, instead of having those blank spots, that lack of visibility, that lack of clarity that can lead to poor decision making and losses. We're surfacing the data, we're making it visible, and we're empowering much better decision making for these partners. The solution itself, it's cloud based, it's scalable, and incredibly simple to implement.
Well, that's going to be my next question, actually, about implementation. But before we get to that, we've got another poll question we'd like to ask. What results would you like to achieve from automating processes? What results would you like to achieve from automating processes? The top response is eliminate time-consuming tasks. I think it is the bane of everyone's life, isn't it? Really, those low-value, time-consuming tasks. Also, a vote for improving process visibility as well. Is that a surprise, Dermot and Danny? Do you think?
No. I mean, Danny and I probably discussed this. It's kind of interesting because we've spoken with people that are leading the businesses. Maybe an independent dealership. This will resonate. People are wearing multiple hats, right? They're doing lots of different tasks. Someone's off there covering it, and it can be about highly skilled, well remunerated employees doing very low value add tasks like duplicating data from one spreadsheet to another, whenever they should be doing things which are adding much greater value to the business. So how can we eliminate that and add more value, capture more value from our really highly skilled employees? Because that's what we want to do.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you. So And as I alluded to earlier, the next question really was around implementation. I mean, you talk about a no-code solution, but are we talking about teams of IT experts being needed here to come into the business and make this work?
Well, that's a good question. The answer categorically is no. All right. Now, we're going to bring Danny in here because we think that we are bringing superior value to the market, essentially, to support dealerships and our partners in the automotive sector. But I'll explain sort of how you can implement our solution. So, first of all, I'm going to go into it in a little bit more detail later, but we have exceptional training. So, our solution is, first of all, no code. It uses business logic. Once you've decided to implement the solution, you go through 2 days of virtual training, followed up by a number of consultancy sessions. At the end of that process, we have your first 2 processes completely digitized. So we can get you up and running within 4 to 6 weeks, which is the fastest turnaround in the market, full stop. So we're market leading in that regard. So your return on investment is categorically guaranteed, and we will actually map that out for you. We'll map that entire process out with the dates, what's going to happen, and we've got an exceptional customer success team that handhold you through that process and ensure that you have support at every step. So that's our commitment, to our, we've well over 100 partners that are currently benefiting from FlowForma, and they've experienced that. Now, what I'd say is that there's primarily 2 approaches here to this, and one would be a self-drive approach, and the other is a chauffeur-driven approach. And this is where this exceptional service from Danny's coming in on the ladder. I'll talk about self-drive first of all. So self-drive is this scenario. You're relatively confident. You might have some team members that you feel could work with a no-code solution. They've got time, they've got the capability, they've got the enthusiasm, and you feel like, listen, we actually want to do this ourselves because it means that we're going to drive down costs. We're going to be able to, we're going to have it as part of our technology stack. We're going to eliminate, the future use of other applications and so on. We're going to basically do our own digitization in-house. We're completely comfortable with that, and we can benefit from the support and the training from FlowForma. And we have ongoing support and training, which is great. So that happens. That actually happens 90% of the time. People digitize in-house. That's fantastic. We've also spoken with automotive partners, though, that feel, listen, we don't feel like we have the time. Maybe we don't feel like we have the technical capability. We know it's no code, it's easy to use, but we still feel like, listen, we'd like a bit of additional support. What can you do for us, right? So we have, in terms of additional support, okay, we do the training. We provide within the first 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, your 2 processes are live. We have a number of templated processes that you can draw down on from HR and from finance and things. We can still provide the advisory services, but on top of that, we would also put together your analytics and dashboard and so on. But there's also that aspect of process build. So what you said is, look, we've identified 10 processes that are essential to the success of this implementation. If we can do these 10, we feel we've achieved everything we need from FlowForma, and that does happen. So FlowForma can either do that, or Danny at Superior can do it. Danny, I'd love you to talk a bit about your process build and integration services, because I think that they've come up over and over from automotive partners. There can be concerns around integration. There can be concerns around, do I have the resources internally? And our partnership with Danny, who has 20 years of experience in the automotive sector, we feel strongly that this is a unique approach and it solves this problem.
Yeah, so at Superior, I can help with building out the processes that you may require, that you need assistance with a bit of a chauffeur-driven option to that. Integrations with, likes of your dealer management systems or any other third parties that you may use as well. If you do need any infrastructure, I can help you there as well, and ongoing support. So between myself and FlowForma, we can do a full turnkey solution for you.
Yeah, and sometimes I think it can be, Tim, it can be about identifying, helping, understanding which processes do you actually want to digitize, so we can help with that. On another side, I'll just delve into this. I know we've got a little bit more time, so I'll just delve into it a little bit in terms of what we've heard back from dealerships. It can be that they can have a complex technology stack. It just creeps up, right? They've added another app, another platform. And you're thinking, look, okay, if I'm adding in FlowForma, is this going to help simplify things or is it not? We help to simplify things, because what we can do, what's really powerful, instant return on investment, is that we can eliminate some of your existing applications that you're spending money on, and you can avoid having to make additional investments in the future because those applications can simply be achieved in FlowForma. So a couple of key points here is, one is simplicity of installation, exceptional training and support. If you don't feel confident, there is I would say a market leading service there. It's very cost effective. And then simplicity around your technology stack. It's how do we also make that more simple?
Okay, fantastic. And how ultimately through this, how would a dealer group be able to measure the level of success from using a service such as this, and how quickly are they going to see some of those results that they want to see?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think there's two parts to that. I think one is somewhat strategic, and then one is maybe a little bit more, let's say, it's something like tactical. So we would see that the leadership teams they've got three, I would say, main priorities. I was kind of alluded to a little bit more, but I'll talk about more now. So business growth. So identifying bottlenecks and problems, solving or identifying opportunities for growth. So once you've implemented FlowForma, think about the company that has 500 processes. Think about a company that has 50 processes. They're able to capture lots of information now, and they're able to see in real time, not a daily data dump, but real time information, showing, okay, these are the key metrics, this is the key information, and they're able to see it every day. They can see instantly, look, this is performing really well, let's do more here. This is performing poorly, let's fix this. So we're empowering the business with information that can lead to much better strategic decision making and business growth. So that's you're going to see that within you're going to have your processes digitized within the first 4 to 6 weeks, but you'll see that information coming through then in the following months ahead. After that, then I think it's employee retention. So how can you think to yourself, well, how can FlowForma help with employee retention? How does that work? Well, think about young people that are coming into your workplace today. They've grown up in the technology environment. My kids touch every screen, expect interactivity, right? So they are technologists, and they're going to expect the best tools. It's a great way to attract talent. And then for them also to be engaged in that process, imagine saying, hey, you could shape your own processes. You could find problems in your department, and you could use our tools to actually make your life easier. It's another benefit. But it's also, so they've got the tools, it's empowering them and giving them the tools, but it's also things like HR as well. It's also, doing performance reviews. It's onboarding them in a timely fashion. It's ensuring that when you log onto your platform, all of your information is up to date and your passwords are correct. It's ensuring that you have all of the skills to do the job. It's ensuring that if you're, working in, that you have your electrification qualifications and that there's a record of that. It's all of those things that we're doing in every way to support and harness the full potential of that employee. So that's another area where they'll be able to say, look, last year we had a 6% number of employees that were had left the business, and this year we've identified that that's been reduced to 3%, whatever it might be. So there should be some tangible benefits right there. And I'm going to bring Danny in here to talk a little bit more about this investment in technology. We think that the executives and leaderships within the automotive sector are really seriously considering their investments in technology and how that can improve their business. I'd like to bring in Danny to talk more about that.
Yeah, the ideal scenario is that FlowForma helps us simplify your technology stack, really. Allows you to collect information to gain insights. It should empower you to digitalize in-house and allow you to invest in the right technologies, really. Standardizing the processes across all the dealerships we mentioned upon earlier, with instant access to reports for strategic decision making.
Dan, I think what's kind of interesting. You talked about earlier is some of the bonuses. Like, can you even just talk about some of the areas where there's bonuses attached to potential processes within?
Yeah, so find it across a lot of the automotive, but the NPS, Net Promoter Score. So there's bonuses paid on positive satisfaction surveys. Now, they can be £80 to £100 per survey potentially. So thinking about how many, let's say, cars come in for a service or free workshop on a daily, that can soon tot up, and that's revenue there to be had. Which obviously though ultimately is trying to retain the customer as well. So it's not just the NPS score getting that additional revenue, but actually keeping that customer coming back and seeing you as a trusted automotive provider, really, rather than just going online and getting a car delivered direct to the house. People want that, love and feeling when they're buying a car. So yeah, really important with the NPS score and the revenue that can bring in as well.
And I'll just touch on a point you mentioned earlier about around the technology piece. For anyone that's listening, they're going to be thinking like, we're already maybe investing in a technology stack. There are costs there. How can we move the needle on that? How can we change that? We talked about earlier. There's potential for identifying applications that are costing money right now that are not working. This will resonate with everyone. They're not effective. They're clunky. I have no visibility on the data. It's not working for me. If that's the case, it's a good chance that could potentially be implemented using FlowForma. I'll give you an example of that. Something like expense management or from HR. If the application isn't working, do it in FlowForma, and we eliminate that cost. So think about your technology investments. We can eliminate costs in existing applications, and we can remove future investments. And then we can also sit over the top of existing platforms and applications to push and pull data and create visibility on data that currently it's very difficult to get to. Like, I've spoken with dealerships, which could take multiple days to pull together reports, management reports. That's very, very time consuming and it's painful. So that's another way in which this technology can generate. Just think about an instant ROI, eliminating current spend and future spend, calculating that, and then benefiting from all the efficiencies, the visibility on the data, the increased productivity, and the reduced costs. There's a real upside there.
Absolutely, lots of benefits. I think as well, for a lot of managers in large-scale operations, there's probably a frustration of well, this is what we use, this is how we do things, and actually the scope to then work with an organisation such as yourself to look at okay, so how can we take away those low value tasks and automate those would bring a big boost to any manager, really. Last couple of questions before we go to the audience one. So it isn't just kind of a job done situation, is it? I mean, I think you mentioned earlier about one of your clients that had already worked on 500 processes, and that's just the start of it. We're not talking kind of like box ticked, like we've done it, are we?
No, definitely. I mean, I wish it was. I mean, I think everyone wishes that it was, but we know it's not, right? I had an old manager that used to say to me, the only constant is change. And I think that's true, right? We've seen huge changes just generally in the automotive sector. And I think that rate of change is going to continue. So how are you going to keep up with that? Yes, once you've digitized, and this is really interesting as well. So it's about that simplicity and about that starting point. I want to bring that message back to people here. There is a simple starting point here. First of all, let's think about those processes. You don't need to map every single process. We call that boiling the sea. You don't need to do that. You can start with 2 or 3. Identify 2 or 3 to get you started, and then it's rinse and repeat. It's just iterative process. So first of all, let's start with 2 or 3. And then once you get going, then you're there. You start to build up 10, 20, 30 processes making huge impact. Well, like all these things, they can be refined, they can be improved. A process may change. And the benefit for you now, also, this is one of the huge benefits of no code, is the ability to maintain a no code solution is much, much easier than a coded solution because it's just business logic. Just tweak it here and there. And anybody can come in behind and do that because it's standardized throughout. It's not a bespoke development. I haven't done it my way. It's just the way that FlowForma work. So there's absolutely no bespoke development. So it's very, very cost effective to maintain. So that's a great thing. Yes, there will be changes down the line, of course, because your business is going to change. but it's going to be very, very easy for you to keep up with that pace of change with FlowForma using a no-code tool. I think that's really important. Danny, do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, obviously it's very scalable. It's any process that you feel that you need to adopt and digitalize, really. So yeah, there's no limit. It's not like buying a off-the-shelf product, really. It's very customizable and scalable, and I think that's what's different with this product and solution that we're going to market with.
Like it's definitely, I think it would definitely be a concern. You're going to make an investment in a solution, and you want to know what does the long-term picture look like here. And I think that no-code aspect is essential. Now, we've been established since 2013. We were the first mover in the market with a no-code. Sorry, not 2000. Yes, 2013. We were the first mover in the market with a no-code solution. And we've been supporting our partners for the last 11 years. And with this new partnership that Danny and I are working on, where we think that the unique value here that we're offering is for those partners that want to do self-drive, that's fine. But for the partners that want ongoing support, they feel that they need that trusted partner. That's where Danny, coming with his 20 years of automotive experience, lots of contacts within, and recommendations, referrals within the industry, having worked with some of these significant partners, we're bringing that with Danny to the market. And we think that we're going to be very well positioned to provide that level of support that our partners dearly need.
Fantastic. Okay, and then if we quickly go through some questions, we might go over by a few minutes, I'm afraid, but hopefully that's okay. Do staff need to be retrained to use your systems?
Okay, so the answer to that is, look, if you want to use FlowForma, you will require some training. Let me explain that to you. So there are 2 days of virtual training followed up by 6 consultancy sessions. That process takes about 4 to 6 weeks in total, and over that 4 to 6 weeks, by the end of that, you will have digitized 2 processes. Now, we're not going to be starting out with major complex processes, 2 sort of small to medium-sized processes that are impactful. And we want to build your confidence. And then after that, we can provide ongoing, what we would call advisory services, where we give you support in terms of building the processes, or we can do more. There's actually a process build support where we can actually deliver that ourselves. But the training is exceptionally good. We are a very well resourced business, and we have a very large customer success team that from day one, once you're on board with us, they are working with you to work out your roadmap. What do you need? What training do you need? What support do you need? What are our goals in terms of where we want to get to at this time frame? And we will deliver that.
Okay. Another audience question. We have third-party suppliers that need to access and input into our processes. Is this possible with FlowForma?
Danny, I'd like to step in here because integration is this is your sweet spot. So what do you think?
It really depends on the third party, but things like APIs, ODBC, FTPs, a lot of them are kind of using those kind of technologies to pass data to and from. So depending on what technology you're using, yeah, we can definitely look at integration, those services. As Dermot mentioned, this is based on Microsoft 365, SharePoint Online. So yeah, natively that integration's there for the 365 offering. But yeah, any third-party integrations, quite happy to have a conversation, see where we can assist you with that.
I'll just add a few points on that. So if the solution has a REST API, which the majority of them do, think about Sage, has a REST API, or some of the well-known DMSs and so on. They have REST APIs, so we can integrate with those, pull and push data from those solutions, so they can be part of your processes. And where Danny lands here in terms of that expertise is, so if you want this solution, but you're thinking, I don't have an on-site IT technician that can do this work. That's why Danny's part of this conversation here. He has years of experience of working with integrations and APIs around these core and popular solutions in automotive.
Yeah, just help you make the best of your investment, really.
A couple of similar questions. One, equally, do you integrate with DMSs? And I think you've just answered it as well, asking what does it look like and what technology does it use? Did you say Office 365?
Yeah, so as Danny alluded there, it is an Office 365 cloud-based solution. It sits on the SharePoint Online tenant, and you capture all of your data. So we don't store any of your data. It's completely GDPR compliant. Danny, do you think there's anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth mentioning, obviously, the due diligence that sometimes gets missed when people procure a product, or somebody within the dealership's gone and brought something that later find that's no longer compliant. So again, GDPR compliant because it's maintained in your own environment, in your tenant within your 365. Obviously, UK support and hosting from FlowForma. And again, they've got the accreditations of ISO 27001, which you should be looking for any of your SaaS providers, really.
Excellent.
Fantastic, thank you. Do you have any examples, experiences automating process that also involve the manufacturer's core IT systems, or is it better to focus on localized processes?
That's a good question. Look, I think that as a starting point, let's just say where you're starting out, you're saying, okay, we want to bring FlowForma in to add value here. We've identified a number of areas, and we would call those, let's say, quick wins, right? So we want to have success quickly. Then, as part of that, and it's almost a concurrent process, it's where we're also identifying, okay, what are the slightly more challenging or sort of medium to complex processes look like? What do the integrations look like? We have to map that. We have to understand it, define it, and then put together a plan for doing that iteration work and so on. So it's really done on a case by case basis. The good news though is that we have years of experience of doing that. As I said, Danny has 20 years of experience of working in this sector and has worked with major partners that have had the exact same challenges that you're speaking about, because all of our partners are integrating with existing automotive solutions.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. I think many in the industry would probably say OEMs will only complicate things anyway. So anyway, one final question then. Bear in mind we've just gone a bit over time. Why now? Why is the time right now?
Look, think about the changes that have happened in the last sort of 12 months within the sector, in the last sort of quarter, news that's come out and so on, things that are happening. Change is happening right now, and the sector is becoming much more competitive as we speak. We think that from the dealer's perspective, their dealership, the experience that they provide, the service that they offer, the trust that they have with their customers, the on-site experience of going and seeing the car, sitting in it, driving it, getting that expert knowledge. We want to provide the underlying structures to make that essentially much more as efficient as possible, so that they're able to deliver that value and capture great results. And that's going to become, delivering that value is going to become more and more competitive. We're here to ensure that your business is exceptionally competitive.
Fantastic. Okay, well, we've come to the end of our allotted time. We've gone over slightly, but thank you for sticking with us. So we will have to leave it there. My thanks to FlowForma and to Dermot and Danny for sharing their expertise on this webinar. Viewers, thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.